Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to meet Donald Trump in the United States on Friday says the minerals deal is a framework for wider agreement. Israel-Hamas agreed to exchange bodies of 4 hostages for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. G20 President Ramaphosa appeals to member nations to focus on inclusive growth based on trade and investments. And Maha Shivratri provides a grand finale to the 45-day-long Mahakumbh Mela, which saw over 660 million people taking a holy dip at Triveni, the confluence of 3 sacred Indian rivers. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday said that he hoped to visit Washington on Friday to strike a minerals deal with the United States and discuss future aid with President Donald Trump. A senior Ukrainian official has said that Kiev had agreed on the terms of the deal, which would see the United States jointly develop Ukraine's mineral resources, and that Zelensky could sign it on Friday in Washington. Zelensky said that revenues from the resources deal would be deposited in a fund co-owned by Ukraine and the United States, and that Kiev would not be a debtor over aid provided under the Biden administration.
This deal could be a great success or it could pass quietly. And the big success depends on our conversation with President Trump. Of course, this agreement is about economics. But I asked for there to be at least an understanding that we are seeing things the same way, that all of it is the part of future security guarantees. So even in the framework agreement, I wanted for there to be at least a sentence, security guarantees for Ukraine. As far as I was briefed by the government officials, this sentence is there now. I don't remember, probably in point 10 or in some other, but it is important that it is there.
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump has approved the likely visit by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to Washington, where they are expected to sign a deal granting the U.S. a share of Ukraine's mineral wealth. The meeting is expected to happen on Friday and has been described as, this deal is close to finalization. Reports indicate that Ukraine had accepted the U.S.'s proposed draft deal on rare earths on Tuesday. Let's look at this report.
The United States and Ukraine have agreed on a minerals deal crucial to Kyiv's bid for U.S. support as President Donald Trump seeks to end the war with Russia swiftly. This agreement comes despite Trump labeling Zelensky as an unpopular dictator who must quickly secure peace or risk losing his country.
I'm dealing with President Zelensky. I'm dealing with President Putin. I'm trying to get the money back that or secured because, Europe has given $100 billion. The United States has given $350 billion. Europe gave it in the form of a loan. They get their money back. We gave it in the form of nothing. So I want them to give us something for all of the money that we put up.
While Trump eyes a major deal on Ukraine's rare earths and critical minerals in return for U.S. support, local operators at one of Europe's largest graphite deposits see this as an opportunity.
We know that our graphite can be used in high technologies. We're sure about that because we send our graphite in European and US laboratories. They make their own tests. We know that our graphite is possible to convert to graphene. Is the nanotechnologies, and 1 kilogram of graphene can cost thousands and $100,000.
Ukraine's vast undersoil mineral wealth is at the heart of the deal, with Trump dispatching his Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to Kyiv to meet Zelensky this week. However, there are concerns about how to mine these minerals.
A huge problem for the US is that there are not so many American companies who are able to mine and to process these rare earth elements, because since almost 2 decades, Chinese companies dominate this sector. So it's not so far clear which companies, Americans, British or German or whatever companies, will be able to do this right now when the war continues.
The draft deal specifics remain unclear, but it includes a fund jointly owned by Ukraine and the US. Ukraine would contribute 50% of its future natural resources revenues, such as minerals, oil and gas. The US would own the maximum financial interest allowed under its law and reinvestment some revenues into Ukraine while supporting its economic development. Security guarantees will be discussed between Trump and Zelensky during the latter's Washington visit. The Trump administration bypassed Ukraine for direct talks with Russia to end the 3-year conflict, with Russia eager to supply rare earth minerals to the US as well.
Rare earth metals is a very important component, very important resources for modern sectors of the economy, and we are not doing much in this direction yet. We must do more.
It's clear that Ukraine and Russia's rare earth deposits are crucial raw materials that could create the demand for an economic resolution of the war. Bureau Report, DD India.
Moving on, as US President Donald Trump shared an AI-generated video on his Truth Social platform depicting his vision for the future of the Gaza Strip, his actions drew sharp criticism from across the world for his proposed takeover. Now, the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that resettling the Palestinian people from the Gaza Strip to other regions would be a time bomb for the Middle East.
On Tuesday, US President Donald Trump shared an AI-generated video of what Gaza might look like under his government's control. Video, which was shared on the Truth Social, came weeks after Donald Trump released his plan to take over Gaza. President Trump's push for a new approach to Gaza's future raised many eyebrows across the globe. On Wednesday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who held talks with his Qatari counterpart in Doha, said that the resettling of Palestinian people from the Gaza Strip to other regions would be a time bomb for the Middle East.
And if attempts are made to bury these Security Council decisions and replace the creation of a Palestinian state with the resettlement of Palestinians throughout the regions, this will only plant a time bomb, as has happened more than once over the long decades of ignoring the demands for a two-state solution.
These developments have come at a time when questions have been raised over the continuity of the three-phase ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel. Even though the Arab world has opposed Trump's plan, they have failed to spell out an effective counterplan. There have been reports of disagreement within the Arab world over the control of Gaza as well as the fundings for its redevelopment. Fuzail Ahmed, DD India.
Egyptian mediators have brokered a deal to swap Palestinian prisoners for the bodies of 4 Israeli hostages. The office of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed that an agreement has been reached with mediators for the return of the bodies of 4 Israeli hostages held in Gaza. Tensions rose when Hamas accused Israel of jeopardizing the Gaza truce by delaying prisoner releases. Since the January 19 ceasefire, Hamas has freed 25 Israeli hostages in public ceremonies, sparking criticism from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who called them humiliating. The Red Cross has urged all parties to conduct prisoner exchanges privately and with dignity. While both sides have accused each other of violating the ceasefire, it has largely held since coming into effect. Thousands of Israelis gathered in Rishon LeZion city in Israel on Wednesday. This is to honor Shiri Bebas and her 2 young sons. During their funeral procession on Wednesday, Shiri and her children were kidnapped during the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7, 2023. Israel's army radio reported last week that Bebas and the children were likely killed while in captivity.
I've come here to pay my respect to the Bibas family, Ariel, Kfir, and Shiri, that were murdered in captivity. It's a very tragic and unfathomable event. It's horrific, and it's something that is very difficult to come to terms with. And it's the little bit that we can do to try and show our solidarity with the family.
Members of the Israeli parliament observed a minute's silence to mourn the deaths of 3 members of the Bibas family on Wednesday. Syria's interim president, Ahmed al-Shahara, met Jordan's king, Abdullah II, in Amman on Wednesday, with the royal court saying the pair discussed security along their shared border and the return of Syrian refugees. The king greeted Shahara at Amman's Marka airport, the court said in a statement, with the 2 leaders then heading to Ragadan Palace for their first talks since Shahara took power. The trip is Shahara's 3rd abroad since he overthrew the longtime ruler of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, in December. The South African President, Cyril Ramaphosa, kicked off a gathering of G20 top economies in South Africa on Wednesday. Urging aid for poorer countries, Ramaphosa called on the G20 leaders for coordinated efforts to focus on inclusive growth that is based on responsive trade and investments.
20. We need deliberate and coordinated efforts to focus on inclusive growth based on responsive trade and investment to grow the incomes of poor nations and the poorest in society.
Still to come here on DD India News Hour. US President Donald Trump proposes replacing the existing investor visa program with a new gold card plan. European Union delegation led by Ursula von der Leyen is to visit India from February 27 to 28. And Taiwan condemns China for shooting drills off the Taiwanese coast.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Well, the US President Donald Trump continues to leverage executive orders to align American policy with his America First agenda. And he has initiated a probe now to explore how tariffs might rejuvenate the US copper production. The president has introduced a gold card pathway as well to citizenship, inviting affluent investors to contribute about $5 million each into the US economy to spur job creation and business development. DD India's Mihir Makuri provides further details on these recent executive orders.
After making waves in the US and around the world with a series of bold executive orders, President Trump continued his aggressive policy agenda on Tuesday, signing yet another batch of directives. This time, he opened a new front in his ongoing campaign against global trade norms by ordering a probe into potential tariffs on copper imports. The goal: to rebuild US production of this vital metal, which is essential for EVs, military hardware, and countless consumer goods.
Like our steel and aluminum industries, our great American copper industry has been decimated by global actors attacking our domestic production. Tariffs will help rebuild back our American copper industry and strengthen our national defense. American industries depend on copper, and they should be made in America. No exemptions, no exceptions.
This latest move marks another chapter in Trump's broader strategy to challenge decades of bipartisan support for free trade, an approach he claims has eroded America's industrial base. But Trump's executive actions didn't stop there. The president also doubled down on one of his signature healthcare policies from his first term, the push for greater transparency in medical pricing.
It's one of the biggest things that can happen to reducing cost in healthcare. It takes a little while to kick in, but Biden ended it immediately upon coming in, which was a terrible travesty, in my opinion, and we're going to start it up, and we've actually made it even stronger by a couple of major factors, right?
In yet another significant policy shift, Donald Trump also introduced a new immigration initiative aimed at attracting wealthy foreign investors. The proposal centers around a gold card, a new program offering a path to US citizenship for a fee of $5 million. This initiative, which replaces the existing EB-5 visa program, would grant investors green card privileges, paving the way to permanent US residency through their financial contributions.
We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card, this is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people.
But for immigrants living in the US illegally, the news could be more troubling. On Tuesday, the Department of Homeland Security issued a directive warning that individuals who fail to register with the federal government could face hefty fines, imprisonment, or both. The impact of these latest executive actions remains uncertain, and only time will tell how they unfold on the world stage. Mihir Makri reporting for DD India.
Shifting focus now to Europe, and the European Commission on Wednesday proposed making available 100 billion euros to support EU-made clean manufacturing as part of its landmark Clean Industrial Deal. The deal is part of a wider plan that includes simplifying red tape and carbon duties, and subject to approval in the European Parliament and amongst a reinforced majority of EU member states.
Therefore, we will mobilize up to 100 billion euros to establish a new decarbonization bank. We will soon launch new auctions on industrial decarbonization, building on the very successful model that you all know of the hydrogen bank. So the decarbonization bank is the same principle like the hydrogen bank. In addition, we will present a new state aid framework. State aid for decarbonization and clean tech will be approved faster, it will last longer, and it will give you more predictability to speed up the innovation.
Germany's potential chancellor and leader of the Conservative Party, Friedrich Merz, has ruled out an immediate reform of the country's borrowing limits, known as the debt brake.
It is out of the question in the near future that we will reform the debt brake. If it happens at all, it will be quite extensive and difficult work that needs to be done. I have also read that there is already speculation about a special fund. We are talking to each other, but it is far too early to say anything about it now.
Merz's Conservatives secured victory in the national elections but fell short of a majority. They now face complex coalition talks with a more divided parliament after a surge in support for the far-right AfD party.
I'm also prepared to take on this leadership responsibility in the government as Federal Chancellor. But all this requires a well-negotiated coalition agreement with the Social Democrats. I'm still assuming that we can negotiate a good coalition agreement with the Social Democrats and that we can do this within a reasonable period of time. so that we really do have a government with a majority in the German parliament by Easter.
Zu führen. Sie wissen, dass ich dazu bereit bin.
President Vladimir Putin of Russia hosted Guinea-Bissau President Umaro Sissoko Embalo for talks in the Kremlin on Wednesday. State TV showed Russian metals tycoon Oleg Deripaska was present at the talks between the two leaders. Russian and Portuguese news outlets have quoted the Guinea-Bissau minister as saying a Russian aluminium company, Rusal, is interested in building a railway and a port in the country and exploring bauxite. The European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, is set to visit India on February 27 and 28, accompanied by 21 of 27 EU commissioners. This high-level delegation aims to enhance India's EU strategic partnership and also to focus on trade, defense, security. The discussions will be on the Ukraine conflict as well. Here's a report by our correspondent Akhilesh Suman.
During the high-level European Union delegation visit on February 28th, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President von der Leyen are expected to engage in comprehensive talks covering proposed free trade agreement, FTA, defense and security cooperation, and Russia-Ukraine conflict. On the FTA front, while negotiations on market access and tariffs may take center stage, discussions will also focus on expanding the India-EU strategic partnership to new areas like defense technology and energy cooperation. Both sides are expected to explore collaborations in digital technology, artificial intelligence and green energy, including green hydrogen and renewable energy. The talks may also be helpful in achieving India's goal of Viksit Bharat or a developed nation by 2047. Free trade agreement, negotiations on market access, tariffs and standards, strategic partnership expansion, defense technology and energy cooperation, digital and AI collaboration, strengthening technological partnerships, India-EU green transition, renewable energy and climate commitments.
I think on the bilateral aspect, it is the EU-India FTA that has been under discussion, under negotiation for a long time. I remember we started this in 2007 when I used to be in Brussels. I used to be the Deputy Chief of Mission in Brussels. EU is a very significant trading partner. It's a very significant investment partner. And we have to make it a very significant technology partner.
A notable component of the visit is the India-EU Trade and Technology Council, which aims to boost strategic coordination on trade, emerging technologies and digital innovations. The total bilateral trade between India and European Union stands at $135 billion. India's exports to the EU amount to $76 billion, while EU exports to India are valued at $59 billion. EU investments in India total up to $117 billion, with over 6,000 European companies operating in the country. Meanwhile, Indian investments in the EU amount to some $40 billion.
India free trade agreement that has been looming on, dragging on actually for more than a decade now, and so far they couldn't agree on the terms. And I think now the situation is there that this agreement should be finalized in the interest of both.
This visit marks the first ever meeting of such a big number of EU commissioners in India, highlighting the growing strategic importance of India-EU relationship. One of the most crucial aspects of the discussions is expected to be Russia-Ukraine conflict. The EU may seek India's diplomatic role in peace negotiations and explore India's support in providing security guarantees to Ukraine should a peaceful resolution be reached. This comes amid the ongoing talks between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Putin to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which has now completed 3 years. The EU, which is aiming to play an important role, sees India as a potential support given its balanced stance on global conflicts.
Since the time Donald Trump has become the President of the United States of America, every country is trying to consolidate the older relationship so that their interests are not affected negatively. India and EU are also trying in the same way. Akhilesh Suman for DD India in New Delhi.
Well, Taiwan on Wednesday condemned China for provocative behavior after saying Beijing's military would hold shooting drills off the island's southeast coast, while a senior Chinese leader vowed unswerving efforts, this is to bring the island under Beijing's control. Taiwan has repeatedly complained of Chinese military activities, including several rounds of full-scale war games during the past 3 years. Taiwan's defense ministry said in a statement that it had detected 32 Chinese military aircraft carrying out a joint combat readiness drill with Chinese warships in the Taiwan Strait area. The exercises endanger the safety of international flights and shipping and are a blatant provocation to regional peace and stability, is what they said. During a visit to Hanoi on Wednesday, New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon said that both countries are moving closer together. And after a welcome ceremony and a meeting with Vietnam's Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh, Luxon said that both countries share similar goals such as a stable, secure and peaceful Indo-Pacific. He also highlighted the announcement of the Vietnamese airline Vietjet Air to develop a new route to New Zealand connecting both countries and people-to-people links. Luxon is in Vietnam at the invitation there to attend the second ASEAN Future Forum, marking his first visit to that country since he took office in 2023. And during this visit, he also met the General Secretary of the Communist Party, To Lam. In a tragic incident, at least 18 people were killed after a tour bus lost control and fell into a ditch in Thailand's Prachinburi province. And this vehicle was one of 3 double-decker buses carrying local government officials on a field trip when it veered off the road in Prachinburi province, east of the capital Bangkok. A total of 49 people were on board when the bus crashed. The Thai Prime Minister, Shinawatra, expressed her condolences to the victims' families and also said that an investigation was taking place, particularly into vehicle safety. Thailand has one of the worst road safety records in the world. Unsafe vehicles and poor driving are major factors contributing to the high toll. Last year, a school bus caught fire due to a gas cylinder leak, killing 23 people, including 16 students. Let's take a look at other stories making news from around the world. Chile's power grid and major copper mines came back online after a massive outage caused by a transmission line failure in the north. The blackout, which struck Tuesday afternoon, plunged most of the country into darkness and disrupted major mining operations, impacting global metal markets. Power firms are working to fully restore the system. Archaeologists in Pompeii have uncovered rare, nearly life-sized frescoes that offer fresh insight into religious practices in the ancient city before it was destroyed by Mount Vesuvius in AD 79. The discovery features a large-scale frieze that spans 3 walls of a banquet hall, presenting vivid imagery of the initiation rites of the followers of Dionysus. Nigeria's National Museum Commission will now oversee the retrieval and safekeeping of priceless Benin bronzes, and this comes nearly 2 years after the royal ruler, previously recognized as the sole owner and custodian, gave his assent to this. Still to come here on DD India News Hour, we're going to get you expert opinion on the potential for rare earths to become a subject for peace between Russia and Ukraine. India's External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar reaffirms India's commitment to mutually beneficial ties with Africa and Japan. And on this day in 2019, the Indian Air Force struck Jaish-e-Mohammed terror training camps in Balakot.
What do you make of how India is dealing with the AI landscape right now? It is It has an AI mission, so it wants to develop AI to the kind of advantages that it can deliver, and also at the same time, it is in the process of working out an AI law.
It's a matter for India it's a sovereign decision for India to determine which approach it takes, whether it takes the regulation-free model or believes that there are risks inherent in AI and that they need to be mitigated and society needs to be protected from those.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will meet Donald Trump in the United States on Friday. He says that minerals deal as a framework for wider agreement. Israel-Hamas agree to exchange bodies of 4 hostages for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. And Maha Shivratri provides a grand finale to the 45-day-long Mahakumbh Mela, which saw over 660 million people taking a holy dip at Triveni, which is the confluence of 3 sacred Indian rivers. And now returning to our top story, which is about the potential deal between Ukraine and the United States on rare earths. We are joined by Ambassador Mohan Kumar, who's former senior diplomat. He's joining us from Greater Noida near Delhi. Thank you very much, Ambassador Mohan Kumar. Now, is the US interest in Ukraine, in the rare earths there, is this, a proposal to stay invested for the long term in Ukraine?
It's hard to say that on current evidence. Thank you for having me. I get the feeling that Zelensky is being made to sign under duress, frankly. He's being given deadlines and he's being told that, listen, you better sign this, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. So that's the first point I'd like to make. The second point I'd like to make is we still don't know the full contours of this agreement because the Ukrainian side has made it clear at the highest level that they will not sign this critical minerals agreement if they don't have some kind of guarantee from the United States. And the guarantee that I'm talking about is a security guarantee, obviously. Okay. So that's the second point I'd like to make. The third point I'd like to make is also, it's not clear to me how the fund will be operationalized. Right now, they're talking in terms of fully monetizing the natural resources of Ukraine. And as you know, Ukraine has a lot of lithium, uranium, and other rare earths, but they also have oil, gas, and coal. So how much of this is going to be monetized is the question that I ask. The second question I ask is, 20% of Ukrainian territory is under Russian occupation, yes, especially in the east. And I'm told 40% of the mineral resources are stuck there. Okay. And if they are stuck there, it may not be easily accessible for the Americans or for the others. So all in all, this is a deal in the making. Sure. We will know the full contours of the deal on Friday. But I dare say one thing. There will be a huge influence of this deal on the ceasefire agreement that is being negotiated under the aegis of the United States. Because this is not just a mineral or a natural resources agreement. This is meant to indicate to Russia that US will continue to supply arms to Ukraine if Russia continues to fight against Ukraine. So it has very serious implications, Mark, for the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia.
Well, the way I see it, Ambassador Mohan Kumar, is that US is interested in rebuilding the Ukrainian economy. It's going to be investing in this sector, and the US presence there and possible peacekeepers. Do you think, it's likely to keep the Russians at bay for the time being, or keep them invested as well in a project that is likely to surround rare earths?
So that is the question I keep asking myself, and I have to honestly tell you the answers are not clear. Yesterday, President Trump said that there could be European peacekeepers on the ground, and he went as far as to say that I have checked with Putin, and Putin has no objection. Today, Russia's Foreign Minister Lavrov says exactly the opposite. He says European troops on the ground will be a red flag for Russia. It will be deceitful, and it will mean that they want to continue with the conflict. So I don't know what to believe, frankly. So I think the best thing is we will just have to wait and see what happens on Friday. And I'm not sure even on Friday we will have heard the last of it, because with President Trump, it's never over until it is over. So we will have to wait and see. There are important conversations happening in Istanbul tomorrow between the Russian side and the American side. I understand that this conversation is not directly about Ukraine, but again, the kind of diplomatic talks that Russia and United States will kind of engage in Istanbul will have a bearing on the conflict in Ukraine. You've already seen the tremendous change in the voting pattern in the United Nations and today in the WTO as well. Suddenly you find the US voting with Russia, which they haven't done for 20 years in the multilateral fora. So a lot of ground is shifting under the old international order. Mr. Trump has certainly brought a wrecking ball to the liberal international order, and we can say goodbye to it. My problem is I do not know yet what kind of order is going to replace the old order. That is what we are all struggling to understand in today's geopolitics.
So President Putin was saying that if the American market is open to him, the Russians are willing to supply aluminium, 2 million tons of it, and he's talked about not developing the rare earths in his country enough. And this is a sector that needs to be developed, and he called all his people in to discuss that. So obviously they are interested in this deal for some reason or the other. Do you think, from the Russian side also, they would be interested in improving their tech sector and trying to get back into, the good books, let's say, of the world community?
I think that was more of a tactical ploy by Putin to make sure that the Ukraine deal does not go forward, by telling the American side that, listen, we too have minerals and we are happy to share. Russia's main objective is not to get American investment or American money. They want the sanctions lifted on Russia. First, Russia wants to be treated as a great power. I think Mr. Trump has done them a huge favor by talking to Putin and by making sure that he is now not treated like a pariah. So that's the first. Second, they will want the sanctions to be lifted. They want investment to be flowing in from all directions back to Russia. And third, they will want at least two objectives, which is keep the territory they have occupied and make sure Ukraine does not join NATO. Everything else for Putin is negotiable, frankly. And right now, I have to say that despite not winning the war, I wouldn't say Russia has lost the war, but I don't think Russia has decisively won the war, except for occupying 20% of the territory. I think given this background, I would have to say Russia appears to have the upper hand in these negotiations, completely, what shall I say, brokered by the United States. I certainly think they have the upper hand at this stage.
Yes, and Ambassador Mohan Kumar, what's in it for Europe? What benefit does Europe get from this potential deal?
No, it doesn't. That's the whole problem. Europe has been sidelined. Europe is desperate. They've just been given a tongue lashing by J.D. Vance at the Munich Security Conference. Europe is deeply
No, but Macron
divided.
seemed to be happy with it when he met Trump just a few days ago.
Macron.
Yes.
I get the feeling that it was mixed messaging. If you read the French press, which I was reading before I joined your show, Le Monde, for example, says that the distance between Trump and Macron was very big. So I'm sure Macron conveyed something to Trump. My difficulty is I don't see Trump giving a clear commitment. When he talks of Zelensky and the rare earths deal, when he talks in a joint conference after meeting Macron, he is not clearly saying, listen, yes, I am happy to provide the American backstop. Backstop is a word that you're going to hear a lot. And what the Europeans mean by American backstop is, while they have accepted that the Americans will not put troops on the ground, they still want American intelligence. They still want American air power. They still want heavy lifting of troops and equipment to be done by American equipment. So these things they would want the Americans, and that is what they mean by a backstop. But I put it to you, I have not heard from Trump that America will provide a backstop. I have still not seen Trump or heard Trump say that there are specific security guarantees that he will give to Ukraine. Maybe he will say this in the next couple of days. But until he does that, I would have to say so far Trump is stalling. And he is sticking to his position that this is not our conflict. The Europeans have ripped us off for the last 70 years. And basically the message he is conveying to Europe, you are on your own. And that is what bothers me. And it should bother, of course, Europeans as well. We will see, because there are a lot of meetings happening, as I said. The UK Prime Minister is also scheduled to go to Washington and meet Trump. They have a special relationship. I don't know how much of the special relationship is left between US and UK. But I think the idea is for a lot of interlocutors from Europe to meet Trump and convince him that you cannot let Ukraine just like that after so much of
one of the experts, Ambassador Mohan Kumar, was saying that the US doesn't seem to have the technology anymore. For the last 20 years, it was China that was doing all the mining. They've come to the fore, and some of the European companies are pretty decent at this. So I mean, the US has to learn the ropes once again, in a sense. And in that context, do you see, Europe playing a role at least, and maybe some Chinese companies also kind of involved?
No, the truth be told, extracting these earths and minerals is not a great thing. And I don't think technology is too much of a problem. The problem is processing it. And China does 80% of the processing of lithium, graphite, uranium, you name it. And processing involves technology, it involves a lot of water, it involves environmental implications and so on. But you're right, US has some catching up to do. In any case, Ukraine has 5% only of these rare earths and reserves. It's not as if this country has 90% of the reserves of the world. We are talking about 5% of the proven reserves that Ukraine has. Yes, it will help United States reduce its dependence on China, but as you rightly say, US still has to learn the ropes. I still think that a lot of what Trump is doing is also posturing. We will see what he really means when he signs the agreement. But the problem with President Trump is his negotiating gambit in the beginning is often very highly exaggerated. It's like saying Canada should become the 51st state of the US and stuff like that. And then, of course, the real negotiations start and we end up with something else. So it's hard to gauge at this point what Mr. Trump has in his mind with regard to the Ukraine conflict.
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Mohan Kumar, for enlightening us on the possibilities that, from this deal. Thank you for being with us. Now, under the UN Under-Secretary General for Peace Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, has expressed his gratitude to India and other nations contributing troops to the UN mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo following the deaths of 3 peacekeepers last week. Jean-Pierre is expected to leave for Congo after his visit to India. India has over 1,114 troops and 160 police personnel deployed in the Congo region.
India is an important country and an important true contributing countries. Now, on the other hand, of course, we do everything possible to make sure that our peacekeepers are safe. And we've been working on camp protection and strengthening the measures so that, the camps would be guaranteed, the best possible protection. And of course, we are monitoring very, very regularly the condition there. And by the way, this is one of the key reasons why I'm going there, to make sure that at least we do everything possible to ensure the safety and security of our peacekeepers. But I really want to pay tribute to all of them, that include the Indian peacekeepers, because yes, it is challenging, but they are, as I said, they're standing the ground, and it's highly appreciated.
India's External Affairs Minister Jaishankar met with Jean-Pierre Lacroix, the UN Under-Secretary General for Peace Operations, in New Delhi on Wednesday. During their discussions, Jaishankar emphasized India's long-standing commitment to UN peacekeeping and multilateralism. As one of the largest contributors to UN peacekeeping forces, India has played a crucial role in maintaining global peace and security over the decades. The meeting underscores India's active engagement with the UN on critical global security matters and its continued support for strengthening peacekeeping operations worldwide. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said that India's approach to Africa focuses on building long-term mutually beneficial partnerships, adding that India believes in capacity building, skill development and technology transfer, ensuring that African countries not only benefit from investments but also develop self-sustaining growth ecosystems. The minister made these remarks while virtually addressing the Japan-India-Africa Forum on Wednesday.
India's deep and long-standing engagement with Africa can make it a natural bridge, whether geographically or in the industrial value chain. With India set for continued rapid economic growth, it serves as an ideal hub for Japanese companies seeking to expand into Africa and the Middle East. Japanese investments, India's solid industrial base and digital capacities, and Africa's talent and consumption can come together to create beneficial outcomes for all stakeholders. India and Japan can also collaborate to strengthen resilient supply chains for African countries, particularly in critical and emerging sectors.
Well, February 26 marks the anniversary of the Balakot airstrike, a defining moment in India's modern military history. It was on this day in 2019 that the Indian Air Force launched a precision strike deep inside Pakistan, targeting terror camps in Balakot in response to the Pulwama terror attack, in which 40 CRPF personnel were martyred. As the clock struck midnight on February 25, a squadron of Mirage 2000 fighter jets armed with precision-guided bombs took off from Indian air bases. Flying at high altitudes, the jets crossed into Pakistani airspace undetected. Their target, a Jaish-e-Mohammed training camp nestled in the hills of Balakot. At exactly 3:30 a.m. on February 26, the aircraft released their payload, obliterating a terror facility in the matter of seconds. The mission lasted less than 20 minutes, and before Pakistan's air defenses could react, the Indian jets had already returned safely. The Indian government confirmed the operation, emphasizing that it won a non-military preemptive strike aimed solely at eliminating terror threats. As the country observes the Balakot anniversary, the message remains clear. India's fight against terrorism is unwavering and its spirit unbreakable. India's President Draupadi Murmu graced a mass wedding ceremony organized by Bageshwar Jan Seva Samiti in Chhatarpur, Madhya Pradesh. Addressing the gathering, the President emphasized the importance of women-led development, urging society to focus on women's education, health and safety. She highlighted the role of saints in guiding society against social evils and discrimination, adding that contemporary spiritual leaders can contribute to building a self-reliant and harmonious India. In a major boost to Assam's economic landscape, Advantage Assam 2.0 has attracted investment worth around 4.25 lakh crores, if I'm not mistaken. A figure that is expected to rise as announced by the Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma. Meanwhile, the Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal participated in the valedictory event on the final day of the summit.
The two-day Advantage Assam 2.0 Investment and Infrastructure Summit 2025 concluded on Wednesday with a valedictory session led by Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal.
इस कार्यक्रम के बाद आसाम की उन्नति में, आसाम की प्रगति में, आसाम के विकास में अब और चार चांद लगेंगे और ज्यादा गति मिलेगी.
Earlier in the day, Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas Hardeep Singh Puri addressed the summit, highlighting India's ambitious plans to enhance ethanol blending in petrol beyond 20%.
Biofuel blending, our target for 20% blending was 2026. And the Prime Minister has put in place an ecosystem. We have, you said, almost reached it. We have reached it. Pankaj, 19.6% हो गया पिछले महीने. अगले महीने 20% तो कर ही लोगे. Today, any country that can achieve a biofuel blending target 6 years in advance means something is going right there.
Assam Chief Minister Dr. Himanta Biswa Sarma also took the stage, emphasizing the state's vast potential in gas and hydrocarbon exploration.
Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas has decided to lay down 1600 kilometer pipeline from Paradip to Numaligarh so that we can enhance the capacity of refinery.
In a virtual address, Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari announced infrastructure projects worth 80,000 crore for Assam. This includes a tunnel under the Brahmaputra River and an elevated corridor at Kaziranga National Park.
करीब 80,000 करोड़ रुपए के महत्वपूर्ण काम जल्दी ही शुरू होने वाले हैं और मैं इसके लिए आसाम की जनता को विशेष रूप से बधाई देता हूं. पेरुआ नरेगी के बीच ब्रह्मपुत्र पर 3 किलोमीटर 6-लेन ब्रिज का निर्माण हो रहा है.
Minister of Ports, Shipping and Waterways Sarbananda Sonowal unveiled ambitious 4,800 crore investment plan to revolutionize Assam's inland waterways sector.
From the Ministry of Port, Shipping, Waterways, in many sectors, we are in the next 5 years going to spend more than 4,800 crores.
The summit also witnessed enthusiastic participation from international investors with a particularly strong response from South Korean businesses.
Organized this Advantage Assam 2.0. It's a big, huge success. The possibility, business and many other educational and cultural opportunities in Assam and also northeast regions of India.
Okay. There is a huge potential in the near future in India. So I was really convinced of your Chief Minister's speak today how much investments will be made, mostly in infrastructure, but also infrastructure include the IT so that you can extend your connections to all over the world.
As Advantage Assam 2.0 came to a close, the state achieved a major milestone, securing hundreds of MOUs with leading organizations that promises to positively impact the job market. This also reinforced Assam's resolve to transform the state to a prime investment hotspot on the global stage. Sarita Chaudhary's report for DD India.
So MOUs worth 4.25 lakh crores, which works out to about 50 billion US dollars. Now, the grand spectacle of Mahakumbh 2025, the world's largest religious and cultural gathering, comes to an end on Wednesday on the occasion of Maha Shivratri, which is being celebrated with devotion and religious fervor across the globe. Maha Shivratri is a significant Hindu festival. It's believed that Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati were married on the night of Maha Shivratri. Devotees observe this sacred occasion by worshipping Shiva, seeking his blessings for spiritual awakening, prosperity and inner peace. Let's look at this report.
The world's largest spiritual and cultural gathering, Mahakumbh in Prayagraj, concludes today on the auspicious occasion of Maha Shivratri. Pilgrims from across the country have been taking a holy dip at Sangam in Prayagraj since early morning. The Mahakumbh Mela, which began on January 13, has drawn over 660 million devotees over 6 weeks, making it the largest gathering of humanity in the world. A rare celestial alignment that occurs only once in 144 years adds to the speciality of Mahakumbh this year. Railway stations, roads and entry points to the city are witnessing a constant influx of devotees. Traffic is being heavily regulated at key spots and the people are being urged to move along after their dip to prevent any congestion. For security on the ghats, NDRF, SDRF, Home Guards and police are keeping a watchful eye to prevent any mishaps. Special arrangements have been made by the authorities to ensure that the event is safe, secure and memorable. Today, Hindus across the globe are also celebrating Maha Shivratri with Vedic rituals at Shiva temples, which includes special invocations and abhishekams of Shiva lingams, followed by religious prayers, chanting, listening religious sermons and singing devotional songs. Shiva temples across India are witnessing massive footfalls. In Varanasi, the much-revered Sri Kashi Vishwanath temple witnessed a massive influx of devotees as flower petals were showered upon them. Similarly, in Ujjain, thousands gathered at Sri Mahakaleshwar Jyotirling temple, where an elaborate aarti was performed. The spiritual fervour extended to Haridwar as well, where the Daksheshwar Mahadev temple saw an overwhelming gathering of devotees. From Tamil Nadu's Rameshwaram temple to Bhubaneswar's Lingaraj temple, the wave of devotion spread across the country. On this sacred occasion, the revered Pashupatinath temple in Nepal also witnessed a massive influx of devotees. Saints and Nagas from Haridwar, Kamakhya, Ujjain and different parts of India gathered at Pashupatinath temple and offered prayers to Lord Shiva. Same scenes of devotion were witnessed in Shiva temples across Sri Lanka, including Panch Ishwaram temples, which are integral to the cultural soul of Sri Lankan Hindus. Devotees gathered in these temples, performed worship and sought blessings from Lord Shiva. Bureau Report, DD India.
And that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. And for those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lin. From all of us here in Delhi, thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.